Larders and gentlemen, about 6 months ago I made a video on whether you should move to Russia. Now in the comments of that video, many people were saying that I would definitely regret my decision to come here and that anyone who moves to this country will have a terrible time. So now about 6 months later, with the weather a little less gloomy, how about you join me on a tour of a normal neighbourhood as I discuss whether I do in fact regret moving to this country. The reason I want to show you this neighbourhood in particular is because it shows off both the good and the bad aspects of living in a provincial city like this. It has some of the more decrepit parts and some of the more developed parts. And overall I think it's quite beautiful and generally ordinary for this country. The problem with filming in this area of town in particular is there are quite a few so-called strategic objects here. So I have to be kind of careful with where I point the camera. I don't want to go to prison. This here is a perfect example of what I mentioned before about having some rather nice parts and some rather not so nice parts. That building's completely abandoned, but that one's pretty much new. It's the duality of Russia. To start us off, I thought I'd bring you to this wonderful little park that's around here. Now, something I really do love about Russia is that there are plenty of green spaces. You normally think of the big, grey, Soviet-era commie blocks. And whilst yes, those definitely exist here, and you'll see some of them later, they're also interspersed with these little nice green areas. And look how beautiful this area is right here. I think many people say is that, wow, the streets are so clean in Russia. Well, I can assure you that quite often they're not. Look at all this mess right here. It's not even a windy day. I've quite often seen bins that are overflowing in this city. It really frustrates me. You were handed this beautiful little space and you ruin it for what? There's a bin that's practically empty right next to it. I was recently a bit of a tour guide for the YouTuber British Man in Russia. He just came to Kursk, and one of the things that he noted was that the city just has so many red stars. I really did not notice, but I know he's from Moscow. I would have thought there'd be plenty there as well. You tell me what you think. In his video here, we went and tried out this tram from 1898, and then afterwards I took him on a tour around the city. Two eras colliding right in front of us. So if he's released that by the time that you're watching this, then go and watch it after you finish this video, of course. He's a brilliant bloke, both on and off camera.
Two British people sitting on a tram.
So I recommend supporting his channel if you enjoy videos about Russia, specifically through the lens of an Englishman living here. Now, why did I actually choose this neighbourhood in particular? Well, it's actually because I've always wanted to do a video from here because I used to live here. Around 2024, in early 2025, me and my wife rented a flat in this area of the city. And I just thought it's such a beautiful and interesting part that really shows off the duality of Russia that perhaps I should show you lot and see what you think. Follow me on Telegram and Instagram if you want to see pictures like these. I always post plenty of behind the scenes content and just also showing off my life here. So if that interests you, then give them a follow. Another downside you should be aware of if you're moving to Russia and you're disabled is that Russia isn't particularly accessible. Now, I don't know to any of you or whether it shows on camera, but this looks like it'd be a nightmare to go down. I don't think it shows very well, but it's incredibly steep. Now, I've noticed that so many times. Yes, you'll have these ramps there sometimes, not all the time, but they'll be so incredibly steep that I can't even imagine going down them in a wheelchair. Although it does actually give me an idea for an interesting video where, who knows, maybe if you're in Kursk and you have access to a wheelchair, maybe I can take it down one of those and see just how accessible Russia really is. So let's get out to this park and I'll show you the rest of this area, show you what life is actually like on the outskirts of a city like here in Kursk. And look at this right here. Kursk isn't exactly out in the sticks or anything, but it's also not Moscow and St. Petersburg. A big downside is just that the infrastructure in cities like this is not maintained very well, and particularly outside of the centre, even though this isn't that far from the centre. People also commonly say that there's no graffiti or anything in Russia, but trust me, there's a lot of it. You might not be seeing it on Red Square, but definitely here on Ulica Dzerzhinskogo. you'll definitely see quite a bit of it. Now the short answer to whether or not I actually regret my life here in Russia is no. Long answer, it's complicated. I do really enjoy my life here, but of course, I'm not an idiot. I see the issues and I'm very open with discussing them. And the big issue I see is actually with foreign YouTubers who do videos living in Russia or even just traveling here. And that mostly comes down to the fact that they're trying to sell Russia to you. And I think that's not right. So quite often it ends up leaving people with a very false image of what life is like here and what their life would be like if they were to move here. And most of the time it's for financial gain. Now, it's not normally the kind of stereotypical thing many people believe, where it's the Kremlin putting a few rubles in your pocket for making a positive video. But you see quite a lot of them who will partner with lawyers and immigration lawyer companies and stuff like that. For referring people to them, they get a kickback for it. Now, I'd never refuse having a chat with one of these immigration lawyers, but to promote life in Russia, to be able to get kickbacks from those, I personally wouldn't feel right doing that. And there is a lot of money to be made through doing it, but I don't know. Maybe to you it seems completely normal. To me, it doesn't feel right. It feels dirty. It means I'm not able to make a genuine video for you about Russia. Like, I'll constantly feel like I'm a salesman trying to pitch to you, hey, move here, come on, look, it's perfect here. When Russia's a normal country, it has issues, has amazing things. Don't trust people that show you only one side of it. Come on, that's enough of me complaining about other YouTubers, complaining about my competition, you could say. So let's touch on something that I do actually like, and that is the general safety that you have here. Now, obviously, Kursk, you've probably heard about it in the news, and yes, it is close to Ukraine, but it's got a lot safer than it was maybe about 2 years ago now, almost. Around that time, you'd very often get sirens and rocket attacks, but now it's quietened down quite considerably since then. So in general, that's not something I particularly think about that often, and most people here don't really. Anya, if you're watching this video, someone apparently loves you. Now, the aspect of safety that I really meant was about robberies or assaults and stuff like that. It's actually very limited here. Of course, nowhere is a paradise, nowhere's a utopia. Of course, crimes happen. But the thing is that you can just walk around here and feel incredibly safe. Even in an area where you might think, oh, it looks a bit dodgy, it turns out that no, I can walk around here speaking foreign language, holding a camera, having a decent looking watch, flaunting it about, and people don't really care. And people in the comments of other videos where I've mentioned this have said that I can only say that because I'm from the position of a young man. But actually, you see it quite a lot with the young ladies here, that they clearly don't feel particularly at risk. Now, of course, they do have to be more careful, and you shouldn't just be stupid with your safety. That applies everywhere, including here in Russia. But something that I've seen quite often that shocks me even still is you'll see so many ladies who want to take a selfie of themselves in front of something, and they'll just plonk their phone down maybe 2-3 meters away from them and stand there taking pictures, even looking away from it. Can you imagine doing that in England, for example? No. Someone will come by and swipe it right away. But anyway, let's get out of this little area right here and show you a bit more of this neighbourhood. We've had really, really unpredictable weather recently, but right now it's absolutely stunning. Super sunny. It's reaching to high 20s, about 30 degrees Celsius. And just in general, like, wow, clear blue skies. It wasn't at all like this even a few days ago. It was going down to around 10 degrees, or maybe like 14, 15 at the highest. And there was completely cloudy, even rainstorms and stuff like that. In fact, I tried to film this video before and got stuck in one of those storms. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to rainy Russia. So whilst we stand out to the rain here a little bit for it to pass, how about I discuss one thing that I've been wanting to discuss on this channel for quite a long time. But today, we got extremely lucky. And it seems to be, they'll be the same for the rest of the summer. One of the things that we've been doing over the past few years is just trying to have these improved outdoor spaces here in the city. And I think it really works quite nice. Got places to sit and relax, especially on a wonderful summer sunny day like today. You just chill out, get a bit of shade, and have a sit down. This here is one of the main streets of the city, and they actually used to have tram lines going down it, but when they removed those lines, the trams were gone. However, we'll continue down here towards the centre, but right now we're going down here because I have something very special to show you. You got all the poplar fluff falling off the trees, and it's setting my hay fever off like nothing. This right here is a shopping centre called Manеж. So I actually used to do my daily shopping down here, and it is just one of the most beautiful shopping centres I've ever seen in my entire life, particularly on the inside. It's like our own little GUM, like they have in Moscow. Just instead of luxury brands, it's normal shops. You're not going to get any Dolce & Gabbana in here, unfortunately. We have a lot of people who are giving some attention to the camera. All the school children are off school now for the summer because they actually get 3 months here in Russia. Nothing like the 6 weeks we get in England. And so when they see a weird Englishman walking around making a video, they want to try and get in the shot, say hello. It's interesting to see how some of them react. I do absolutely love the city of Kursk. I think I made an excellent decision living here, even though it wasn't exactly a decision, it just kind of happened. But if any of you do want to visit Kursk, well, just hit me up on Telegram. Now, if I'm in town, I'll happily show you around. And if you are actually from Kursk, also hit me up, that's really cool. I like it when I find out that I have viewers from this city. It's generally quite close to the centre right here, but it's so much quieter. So much nicer, if you ignore that. So, got some of the taller apartment blocks here. We've also got private houses and stuff like that. Look at this one over here. Most of them are made of wood, some of the older ones, but this one's really cool because it's not even painted. It's just the raw wood. Who doesn't like a bit of raw wood? Look at that view. As I keep saying, Kursk is not Moscow and St. Petersburg, but as I also keep reminding you, it's just not the middle of nowhere. It's a city of 400 and something thousand people. I'll put it on screen, the actual number. So it's bigger than my city back at home in England, but not what you call a major Russian city. Historically important, but in the modern day, it's just another area of Russia. I don't remember this building though. That one's nice and modern. If you do actually want to see some of the more rural areas of Russia, then my channel probably isn't the one, although I do have a video of village life and maybe I could film more things like that in the future. So if you're interested, tell me about that. But if you do actually want to understand what rural life is like in Russia, then I can recommend a few channels. The one that comes to mind that I do actually really enjoy is this Dutch family that lives in the Tver region. They're setting up this homestead there. Almost my channel isn't really focused around that stuff. If that's the reason why you want to move to Russia, then definitely check them out. Their channel's amazing. Any others that come to mind, I'll leave them in the description for you as well. And whilst we're on the topic of channels about Russia, if you are interested in Russia, what the life is actually like here, if you want to eventually see every single region of the Russian Federation, then subscribe to the channel and hit that bell button. I have many more adventures planned in upcoming videos, so stay tuned, check them out. I think you'll love them. Right now I'm actually walking in the neighbourhood that I lived in. This right here is the building. I've not been back since the day that we left. And honestly, I'm feeling pretty nostalgic. Yeah, it's not the prettiest, but I have plenty of pleasant memories around here. And of course, plenty of pleasant memories of the cats. There's 2 of them here. Hello. There's also what looks like a bunch of hornets. So I am going to move away. Hello, привет. Как дела? Oi. He looks kind of like my cat back home in England. Same sort of colour of fur, if slightly more grey. But this right here is just what most neighbourhoods look like in Russia. And whilst I can't really show you where I live right now because that would be incredibly stupid, I thought, why not show you where I used to live? Take you to somewhere where I spent plenty of time. And if you can see that in the far distance, that's Знаменский собor, probably the most famous building in all of Kursk. Here's another one of these new developments that I was mentioning earlier. Look how pretty this is. This area is not so bad. It's making me wonder why we left it. You can see here little reminders about the current situation here. A little tidbit about this area. This street is called Ulica Sovietska, so quite literally Soviet Street. And right here we have a thing that's called Wildberries. You'll see this all over Russia, along with something called Ozon and Yandex Marketplace. Now these are sort of online marketplaces, and they're these collection points for you to come and collect your items, and if you need to return them. And it's an entire culture surrounding them. It's something we don't really have in England. Like, you have collection points, but basically in order to use it, you'll just order it to your home. So maybe I'll do a video about that in the future. So just tell me in the comments if any of you are interested. And here we are, getting closer and closer to the centre. I don't know if you can see it, but over there, they've got an Uzbek restaurant. Now, unlike in the UK, you don't actually have many Indian restaurants, but you do have a lot of places doing food from Central Asia. And honestly, Central Asian food is incredible. Give it a try. Have a bit of plov. Now, if you're a long-time viewer of this channel, you'll know that I enjoy a good memorial. And this is one I've actually wanted to film, well, since before I started my channel. But I just never really saw a good moment to fit it in. And here it is right here. So this one, unlike most of them, isn't to the Second World War, but instead to the war in Afghanistan. For any of you who don't know, during the end of the Soviet era, the USSR was involved in a war in Afghanistan, and well, they collapsed pretty soon afterwards. Afghanistan is not called the graveyard of empires for nothing. And this one here seems to mostly be during the times of the conflicts in places like Chechnya and Dagestan. Nowadays, Chechnya is pretty safe, and that whole area in general is rather safe, even for Westerners like me. I did actually do a video from a region nearby Chechnya called Ingushetia. So if any of you are interested in seeing that, I'm going to be uploading it soon, once I have it edited. Filmed it last year, but why not release it? I think it's quite an interesting video. I've not discussed any war memorials on this channel for quite a while now, and so I feel quite happy with myself, finding it to fulfill that urge. If you're new to the channel, it might seem a bit weird, but just watch a few videos and you'll understand. And here are 2 more shopping centres. Now, the thing about Kursk is there's a ton of shopping centres. It's not a city with particularly many people, But my God, do they like to go and have a shop in a big building full of shops. I mentioned that as an interesting fact in one of my previous videos, and there was an article where they said that it's not actually that interesting, but I'm interested. Do any of you think that stuff is interesting? That Kursk, at least I think, has the highest amount of shopping centres per capita in all of Russia? Fact check me in the comments, please, because sometimes I just talk out of my backside. So I want to go over to the other side and show off that. I did go there in the previous video for Masnitsa, but let's go and see what it's like in the summer. Very friendly people here in the city of Kursk. Friendly buskers. This is what I meant about for wheelchairs. People tried to convince me that that is for pushchairs. And then the other half agreed with me that no, it's for wheelchairs, it's just really badly designed. I need to try that out with the wheelchair. I'll probably die in the process, but all for the channel, all for the video. Good video will make it worth it. Here we have the Kurski Государственный Cirque, the circus. And I thought there's no better place to discuss the absolute circus that is my most popular video. The purpose of that video was not actually to either glaze or talk down about Russia. It was all to kind of balance out a lot of misinformation that I saw online for people talking about moving here or people just talking about the country in general. And of course, people don't like when you have a balanced view on Russia. Everyone just wants you to agree with them, whether that's in a positive or a negative way. And unfortunately, I don't roll that way. People calling me a Kremlin propagandist and Russians getting annoyed that I'm showing Russia in a bad light because I included a larder and a pothole. I get a lot of hate from both sides of my videos. And right now, I'm just going to go to the core of why I made that video. And that's because Russia is not the conservative paradise that many people think it is. There, it's that plain and simple. I should have really started with that in the video, and I don't know why I didn't. But hey, it brought most of you here right now. Now, I don't want to discourage people from moving here, but really you do have to be realistic about what you'll find when you do come. Because many people do watch videos about Russia being some kind of paradise, like you can come and you can escape the problems of the West. Russia has its own problems, ladies and gentlemen. But also, it's not some absolute shithole like some people seem to think it is. It has its ups and it has its downs. But if you're coming for an ideological reason, don't. If you're doing that for anywhere, if you're trying to escape something, then that's really not a strong reason to completely relocate to a new country. Quite frankly, if you don't like the politics of your country and so you're coming to Russia in the hopes of, I don't know, finding some Christian utopia or whatever, just go back home, sort out your own country, and then maybe consider moving here. Because quite frankly, most of the times that I see people who move for those reasons, and only for those reasons, they end up quite quickly not liking what they find here, and they go back home, or they end up just pretty miserable here. Or they just end up not integrating, which is another problem entirely, and something that is a bit of a pet peeve of mine. Come here, learn the damn language, try and fit in. Don't just complain that Russia has to somehow conform to what you need, your needs, what you want. It's not about you. That does not look safe. There's a concept in many of these countries, like Russia or like in Southeast Asia, like places like Vietnam and stuff, and that's the concept of a loser back home. Now, unfortunately, most of the ones who dream of coming to Russia and somehow being some new, better person, start their life anew, and I don't know, find themselves some beautiful Russian wife and get all the job opportunities just because they're an American or a Brit or a German or something. I'm sorry to break it to you, but Russia is not like that. Now, I was under no illusions like that when I came here, as a surprise to some, but I see many people who genuinely kind of think that way about this country before they even step foot here, and it's kind of sad really, because they are the types that will be disappointed, especially because not coming because they like Russia, they're coming because they have this image that their insecurities will be solved by coming here. Unfortunately, it is the opposite. When you move to a country that is so different and sort of really quite difficult to integrate into, like Russia, it breaks people with insecurities. Everyone has some insecurities, but if you're coming to try and fix yours and be a different person, sort yourself out first and then see if you actually do want to live here because you like the country. Look at this park. It's completely empty right now, or almost. Well, they always have events on here, as you've seen in my other videos. Over there, Знаменский собор. You can see the road that we walked home to get here. Here we have some little flag things saying, "Я люблю Kursk," I love Kursk. And indeed, ladies and gentlemen, I do love Kursk. But I think that now that I've had a bit of a rant, how about we go to the final stop of today and show you the most famous building in this city. And to put into perspective, I am one of the very few Westerners living in Kursk, or even the very few that have even visited, especially in the past few years. And I'm not some super rock star or something here. So when you see people who will move to, I don't know, Moscow or St. Petersburg, and they think that they're going to show up and have life handed to them because they're some Westerner, that's not realistic at all. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. This doesn't look it on camera, but it's one of the steepest walks in the city. And my God, in winter with all the ice, whew. So here we are in front of one of the most important symbols of Kursk, if not the most important symbol, Знаменский собor, which happens to be in front of a building that a couple of years ago a Ukrainian drone hit. I hope they weren't aiming for this wonderful cathedral. Now, many Russians will not want me to discuss this and won't want to admit it, but one of the most interesting parts of Soviet history is how religion was essentially banned. So many churches like this right here were converted and used for other means. So instead of going to a beautiful place like this to pray, people would actually go to Знаменский собор to watch a film. They converted it into a cinema. Now, I really think that the sound in there with the echoing of a church, that surely can't work very well for a cinema. Well, it wasn't the practicality that was making them convert it, was it? Now, unfortunately, it is seemingly closed for renovations. Normally you can go in there. Just look how beautiful this place is. Now, after watching my video, any of you who were considering moving to Russia, are you still considering it now? At least if you weren't planning on moving, are you still planning on visiting? Now, that part I definitely would recommend, even if you don't particularly want to live here. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I think you'll enjoy this video that's on screen right now. So go and check it out, go on. I'm waiting. Okay, до свидания.